Jen Metzger, welcome from Rosendale, Ulster County.
Thanks. So I just wanted to note that in addition to being a partner in this project, my other hat is I am, like you, a municipal official. I sit on the town council in my town, in the town of Rosendale. And we got our clean energy community status, and we are planning to put our $50,000 award to the conversion of our streetlights. So I'm living through this as well as talking to you about it as someone who's studied it. So there are these two main pathways to LED conversion in New York. One is to upgrade to utility LEDs. These are very new options in New York. Most utilities have utility options available. NYSEG does not quite, but they proposed options and they will become available in December. But there's not a lot of information out there on these utility options. And then the other possible pathway to LED conversion is by purchasing the streetlight system and converting to LEDs. And a recent change to state law has made it easier for communities to purchase their systems. So these are great new options that are available, but there's not a lot of information out there about them. So we undertook a very comprehensive analysis of these two alternative pathways for municipalities in our region, in the Mid-Hudson region, which includes the Central Hudson, ONR, and NYSEG. In today's discussion, I'm just going to focus on NYSEG since that's what's relevant to your geographic area. And my fellow presenter, Amanda, will cover National Grid, which she is an expert in, so between us, we should have the region covered. Before getting into the specific sort of utility options, I want us to just take a step back and sort of set the stage by, looking at, what are the considerations that local officials, like local governments care about when trying to make a decision about which pathway to take. Next slide. There we go. There are this range of considerations, that are important to all of us. Different communities may give different factors lesser or more weight, but we want to give you with enough information about each of these considerations that you can make an informed decision. So of course we're all, as local governments, concerned about the costs and the potential cost savings. How do the annual costs compare under utility ownership and municipal ownership scenarios? We found in our analysis that local governments will see savings from converting to LEDs in both, by taking either of those pathways, municipal ownership or going with utility options. But we found substantially greater long-term savings if you purchase your streetlights from the utility and convert to your own LEDs. And we'll look at the NYSEG example in a moment. Energy savings are also important to us, many of us, not just because that also translates into cost savings, but because it helps us reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. It's good for the climate. The energy savings that can be realized under the two scenarios is also different. Again, you'll see substantial energy savings under both through both pathways to LED conversion, and this is just by virtue of LED technology is so superior, so super efficient over existing lights that you're guaranteed some energy savings, or a good deal of energy savings. But if you choose to purchase your street light system and convert to LEDs on your own, you can see even greater savings because you're not locked into the limited wattage choices that the utility offers. You can get you can size your LEDs more appropriately to your needs, and this often results in additional energy savings. In terms of there are other factors we consider in terms of your lighting choices. Wattages I mentioned. Local governments, communities also care about the quality of the light, the color of the light. With the utility options, you get what they have available. And if you are purchasing the LEDs yourself, you have more control over those options. So, for instance, some communities want a warmer light color, that's measured in terms of, if the measurement is kelvins, and the lower the Kelvin level, the warmer the lights. The utility options almost universally are about 4,000 kelvins, which is kind of a neutral daylight color. But some communities have gone for a 3,000 Kelvin to more closely approximate like that warmer feeling of the older lights. Another difference in terms of lighting choices, another consideration is advanced control options, which George is going to talk about later. There are no advanced control options for utility owned LEDs. Of course, if you're purchasing the lights, you can take advantage of those control options. Another consideration in choosing your pathway to conversion is how quickly you can do it. The utilities have in their tariffs, which are the rules and policies that govern everything, and rates that they have all set a minimum number of lights, percentage of lights that they're committed to converting to LEDs per year. And that minimum has been 15%. So in the absolute worst case, where they will only convert 15% a year, it will take you 7 years to convert your lights to LEDs. But it's up to the utility's discretion, and if you are going to convert to LEDs, you should have a conversation with them and try to, you may be able to get it done all within 1 year. But again, you as a local government don't have control over that decision. That is a utility decision. If you are, converting the lights yourself, of course, you can do that much more quickly. Once you have a contract with an installer, it's a matter of weeks or months, depending on how many lights you have. And then finally, and we don't want to minimize this factor, is the convenience factor. We haven't owned our streetlights typically in the past. Most municipalities in New York do not own their own streetlights, and it's been pretty hands off. The utilities are responsible for managing it. When you take over the lights, you now have the responsibility of maintaining them. I do want to point out that I just want to point out that a big difference between LED technology and the existing lights is that they have a much longer lifespan, 20 to 25 years, a very, very low initial failure rate of around 1%. So the O&M costs, operation and maintenance costs of street lighting has dropped dramatically with the conversion of LEDs. With high pressure sodium lights, you have to change the bulbs every 5 or 6 years. So it's more of a constant thing, and those costs are greater. So really, there's in some ways no better time to take over streetlight ownership. Okay, next slide. Okay, I just wanted to go over some of the mechanics of upgrading to utility-owned lights. First off, a local government, if you want to upgrade to the utilities LEDs, you have to request that. The utilities are not going to automatically upgrade to LEDs unless the light is at the end, the existing light is at the end of its useful life, and that can take a very long time. The reason for that is that the existing lights still have value on the utilities books, so by taking the lights out of service prematurely, the utility incurs a loss. So the Public Service Commission is actually required that towns that wish to upgrade to the utilities LEDs have to pay what's called the stranded costs of the lights being replaced. It's a one-time cost that represents the remaining undepreciated value of the lights that are being taken out of service and replaced with LEDs. Okay, I've already talked about the fact that the utilities tariffs speak to the pace of conversion, which you'll have to take up directly with the utility. But one other important point is that the Public Service Commission has directed utilities to allow municipalities to choose which of the utilities LED wattages to install where. So this will become clear when I talk about NYSEG's proposed options. But in general, we found that the utilities LED replacement wattages are often higher than they need to be. So if you get to choose lower wattages for certain replacements, you can save additional energy and money rather than just following their one-for-one replacement strategy. But to really do that, you have to undertake an assessment of your street lighting needs, and we can talk about there. We will later in this presentation, I think, talk about how you can undertake those kinds of assessments. Next slide. Okay, as I mentioned, NYSEG does not yet have LED options available, but it has submitted a proposal to the Public Service Commission that is going to be approved by December. The Public Service Commission is likely going to require some modifications to that proposal, which I'll talk about in a few minutes. But the utility, NYSEG has proposed 4 LED wattages to replace its 7 most common light types and wattages. These LEDs are 4,000 Kelvin fixtures, which, as I mentioned, is a more neutral kind of daylight color. By converting to these options, our assessment has found that you will see energy savings of as much as 66% on average over the existing fixtures, so that's pretty good. Some of these wattages, even still, some of these light wattages are oversized for the lights they've been replacing. And we submitted comments on NYSEG's tariff to the Public Service Commission recommending lower wattage replacements in some cases, and it's very possible that the Commission will add an additional require that NYSEG add an additional, maybe a 5th LED option that's at a lower wattage, because it has done that in other utility cases. So we could see when it's finally approved a better selection of utility wattages. In terms of stranded costs, the NYSEG has proposed to basically determine that cost on a case-by-case basis based on the net book value of the municipality's existing lights. Again, this is a one-time cost that would have to be paid to convert to LEDs. With regard to the rates, so you pay you can think of it as a rental charge. It's your annual fixture rate per fixture. And that is by far your biggest cost of street lighting, is that annual fixture rate that you pay. The proposed rates for NYSEG's LEDs, some of the LEDs are more expensive than the existing lights, some of them are less expensive, but when we put it all together, including the energy savings that you would get from converting, we estimate that you would see an average of 10 to 15% reduction in your street lighting bills from converting to their LED options, their proposed LED options. I want to emphasize that because the Public Service Commission, in reviewing other utilities' LED options, took issue with some of the assumptions that the utilities were making when they set these rates, and which actually ended up bringing the rates down even more. And I expect that to happen in NYSEG's case. So you may see, so the actual bill savings may actually be greater by the time the tariff is approved. Next slide. So how does this compare with the municipal ownership pathway? Our analysis found that with municipal ownership, you would see a 70 to 75% annual bill reduction after you purchase the streetlights and convert to LEDs. So that's, of course, a huge savings compared to the 10 to 15% that I was just referring to under the utility ownership option. This has to do, again, with the fact that much of your street lighting costs are from renting your street lights from the utility. So those costs, go away. You have other costs because you have to maintain the lights yourself. You have to pay a pole rental fee. We can get into these things. But those costs don't come anywhere near to what you're paying the utility right now. And we estimate the payback period on that investment to be between 5 and 7 years. This is going to depend on the utilities, on how much it costs to buy your streetlight system. It can vary. We looked at a couple of cases in NYSEG territory of communities that purchased their systems already. Horseheads, Village of Horseheads, the average cost per light was $101 for the old lights from NYSEG. In West Seneca, the town paid municipality paid $250 per light per average. So it's a range. It depends on the age and composition of your lighting inventory. But again, the savings are quite big. And I think that wraps it up for this piece of it. And Amanda can tell us about National Grid.